At a time when we need to be making a clear distinction between our support of and concerns about a people and our clear denunciation of terrorism, I think it's interesting that a 35-year-old Kurdish man with apparently clear links, somebody who had been sentenced to 2 years in prison by the French authorities for recruiting members into the PKK militant group, has been arrested in the centre of Athens in an area called Exarchia. It's the sort of student area. It's actually the area where I used to live. He was accompanied by two other Kurds, a Belgian woman, all of whom were brought to the local police department for questioning. And the point is that the PKK has been a registered, designated as a terrorist organisation and prohibited by the European Union since 2002. In 1999, the leader of the PKK, the leader of the Kurds, Öcalan, was apprehended in Nairobi and sort of trapped on an airstrip and taken to Turkey, where he has ever since been in prison on an island. Now, this led to the resignation of three senior members of the government at the time: the foreign minister, Pangalos, the Papadopoulos, the interior minister, and Petsalnikos, the public order minister. And there was a lot of sympathy for the Kurds in Greece. And that continued even after the PKK had been clearly designated as a terrorist organisation. And while I was living in Greece, up until 2004, I think, I could quite happily identify PKK activity. And indeed, I think I knew a number of members of the PKK. I mean, I didn't have absolute knowledge. It's only with hindsight that I realised that these people were definitely members, and they were prevailed upon to do the dirty work of the Greek authorities. And indeed, it was PKK people who came round to my house with guns to threaten me at one point, twice, 2 points, 2 times. They were due round a third time, and that didn't happen. And there was one time where somebody tried to kill somebody in my flat, and I stood in the way. So on 3 occasions in Greece, I came very close to getting shot, and on all 3 occasions, I think there was activity of this dark underbelly of the Kurdish movement. Now, of course, one has sympathy for the people. It's these organisations, and it's sometimes very difficult to identify who is a militant, who is a terrorist, who is not. It's a shady issue. So it's quite important that governments are very clear when they are faced with the reality. So when faced with the reality that Hamas have gone over the border and done what is effectively a pogrom on the Jewish villages around Gaza and the kibbutzim, that is a pogrom. It's exactly like the sort of pogroms that took place in Russia, and it's repulsive, utterly repulsive. And the killing sprees that the PKK has embarked on across Turkey, in Ankara, in Istanbul, the attacks on the synagogues and so on, all of this is repulsive, utterly repulsive, and it must be condemned. We must not confuse support for a group with support for a terrorist organisation. We must draw that distinction. Kurdish people are represented in the Turkish parliament, could be more represented. But the terrorist organisation must be condemned. The Palestinian people are represented in the Knesset, could be more represented. But the terrorist organisation of Hamas must be condemned. And an organisation which wants to destroy the country, who wants to destroy the system using the bomb, must be condemned. And it's a I think it's to be applauded that the Greeks have arrested somebody today, and I trust I trust they will follow up. And the signal is the right signal, I'm afraid.